The Galactic Empire, a tyrannical civilization that had subjugated countless alien races, made first contact with humanity. Arrogantly assuming the technologically advanced but pacifist humans would pose little threat, the Empire issued an ultimatum: submit or be destroyed. Little did they know, humanity had been covertly preparing for this moment, led by the brilliant military strategist Dr. Sasha Ivanov. On the bustling streets of New Moscow, the heart of the newly formed United Human Federation, Dr. Ivanov strode with purpose through the crowded sidewalks, her sharp eyes scanning the faces of the passers-by. Though only in her late 30s, the Russian-American scientist had already cemented her reputation as one of the most brilliant and innovative minds of her generation. Her seminal work on plasma weaponry and advanced propulsion systems had caught the attention of world leaders, who now looked to her for guidance in the face of the impending imperial onslaught. As she reached the towering headquarters of the UHF Defense Command, Ivanov was immediately ushered into a secure briefing room, where the Federation's top military commanders were gathered. Tension hung thick in the air, punctuated only by the occasional crackle of the holographic displays that dominated the chamber. "Doctor, thank you for coming," said General Xander Voss, the grizzled veteran who had been entrusted with leading Earth's defense. "The situation has become dire. The Empire has issued their ultimatum, and we have less than a month before their invasion fleet reaches our solar system." Ivanov nodded solemnly, her fingers flying across the tablet in her hands as she reviewed the latest intelligence reports. "Their forces are truly formidable, but I believe we have a path to victory." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. "However, it will require bold action and an uncompromising commitment from all of us." The room fell silent as the military leaders leaned in, their attention rapt. Ivanov took a deep breath and began outlining her audacious plan. "We've been working in secret for years, building a network of advanced defense satellites equipped with our latest plasma weaponry. These satellites will form an impenetrable shield around Earth, capable of withstanding even the mightiest Imperial warships." General Voss frowned. "That's all well and good, Doctor, but we'll be outnumbered and outgunned. How do you propose we actually defeat the invaders?" Ivanov's lips curled into a determined smile. "That's where our ace in the hole comes in." She tapped a command into her tablet, and a series of holographic schematics sprang to life, depicting a sleek, angular spacecraft. "This is the Prometheus, our first FTL-capable starship. With its advanced propulsion and weapons systems, it will be capable of striking deep into the heart of the Empire's territory." The generals eyed the schematics with a mixture of awe and skepticism. "You're talking about an audacious strike on the imperial capital itself," Voss said, his brow furrowed. "Do you really believe we have a chance of pulling that off?" Ivanov's gaze hardened. "We have no choice, General. The fate of our entire species hangs in the balance. If we do not take this risk, the Empire will crush us without a second thought. But if we can deliver a decisive blow at the very center of their power, it may just be enough to force them to reconsider their invasion plans." The room erupted into a flurry of debate, with some generals voicing their concerns about the plan's feasibility, while others rallied behind Ivanov's bold vision. As the discussion reached a fever pitch, the doors to the briefing room burst open, and a breathless aide rushed in. "Sirs, ma'am, we've just received an urgent transmission from the Imperial Embassy. They're demanding an immediate response to their ultimatum." Voss turned to Ivanov, his weathered face etched with a grim determination. "Doctor, it's time. What's our response?" Ivanov met his gaze unflinchingly. "Tell them we have one warning for the Galactic Empire. Run." Outraged by the Empire's callous disregard for human life, the nations of Earth put aside their differences and united under the banner of the United Human Federation. With limited resources but an unbreakable will, they began building a formidable war machine, guided by Dr. Ivanov's visionary plans, a desperate gambit to give humanity a fighting chance against the overwhelming might of the Galactic Empire. Across the globe, Factories hummed with activity as engineers and technicians worked around the clock to construct the Prometheus and the network of defense satellites. Ivanov oversaw the project with an iron fist, pushing her teams to the brink of exhaustion, but her unwavering determination was infectious, fueling the collective effort. "We're running out of time," she told her lieutenants during a late-night strategy session. "The Empire will be here in less than a month. We need to accelerate production and ensure our defenses are ready." Major Elena Petrovna, Ivanov's closest confidant, nodded grimly. "The people are scared, Sasha. They've seen the footage of the Empire's conquests, the devastation they've wrought on other worlds. They need hope." Ivanov's brow furrowed as she considered Petrovna's words. "Then we'll give them hope. Arrange a public address. I want to speak to the people of Earth directly." On the day of the address, millions tuned in to watch as Ivanov took the podium, her piercing gaze sweeping across the sea of faces projected on the massive screens behind her. For a moment, she was silent, allowing the weight of the situation to sink in. "My fellow citizens of the United Human Federation," she began, her voice firm and resolute, "the Galactic Empire has come to our doorstep, demanding our unconditional surrender. They believe that we are weak, that we are nothing more than a primitive species unworthy of their attention." A murmur rippled through the crowd, but Ivanov raised a hand, silencing them. "But they are wrong. We are not weak, and we are not primitive. We are a people forged in the crucible of adversity, a civilization that has overcome countless challenges to reach the stars. And now we stand united, ready to defend our home, our very way of life, against those who would seek to subjugate us." Ivanov paused, her gaze burning with conviction. "The Empire has made a grave mistake. They have never faced a foe like us, a people willing to sacrifice everything to protect what we hold dear. And so, I say to them, we have one warning for you, Galactic Empire. Run." The crowd erupted into thunderous applause, the air thick with a newfound sense of purpose and determination. Ivanov allowed herself a small smile, knowing that her words had struck a chord with the people. In the days that followed, the construction efforts reached a fever pitch as technicians and engineers worked tirelessly to complete the defense network. Ivanov spent countless hours poring over schematics, refining the designs of the Prometheus and the satellite system, ensuring that every detail was perfect. As the deadline for the Imperial invasion loomed, Ivanov gathered her top commanders for a final briefing. "The satellites are online and fully operational," she reported, her tone measured. "The Prometheus is fueled and ready for launch. All that remains is to wait for the Empire's arrival." General Voss nodded grimly. "We've done all we can, Doctor. Now it's up to the people of Earth to show the Galactic Empire what we're made of." Ivanov's gaze hardened. "They will learn, General. They will learn that humanity is not to be trifled with." The tension in the room was palpable as the commanders dispersed, each one steeling themselves for the impending clash. Ivanov remained behind, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the solar system, a silent prayer on her lips for the safety of her people. The Galactic Empire, she knew, was about to discover the true power of the human spirit. As the deadline for surrender approached, the Empire assembled a massive invasion force, confident in their ability to swiftly subjugate the primitive human civilization. But the UHF had a surprise in store. A network of advanced defensive satellites armed with devastating plasma weapons, a testament to human ingenuity and the tireless efforts of Dr. Ivanov's team of scientific visionaries. In the dark void of space, the Imperial fleet emerged from the inky blackness, its sleek warships bristling with formidable weaponry. At the helm of the armada was Commander Silov, a seasoned veteran who had led the Empire's conquests across countless star systems. So these humans dare to defy the will of the Galactic Empire? Tylov sneered, his gaze fixed on the holographic display of Earth and its meager defenses. "Prepare the invasion force. We shall crush their pathetic resistance with ease." As the Imperial ships closed in on the solar system, The UAF's early warning systems sprang to life, alerting the command centers on Earth. General Voss, his face etched with a grim determination, barked orders to his subordinates. All units, prepare for battle. Activate the defense network on my mark. Ivanov, her eyes narrowed with focus, monitored the situation from the command center, her fingers dancing across the holographic displays. The satellites are armed and ready, General. Waiting for your command. Voss took a deep breath, his hand poised over the activation switch. Now, with a flash of brilliant light, the network of defensive satellites erupted into action, their powerful plasma cannons lancing out to meet the advancing Imperial fleet. Caught off guard by the ferocity of the human response, the Imperial ships scrambled to return fire, but their weapons proved woefully ineffective against the UAF's formidable defenses. Xyloth's face contorted with rage as he watched his flagship sustain heavy damage from the relentless barrage of plasma bolts. Impossible! How dare these humans defy the might of the Galactic Empire? The battle raged on, with the Imperial ships struggling to make any headway against the UAF's impenetrable shield. Ivanov, her brow furrowed in concentration, directed the satellites with surgical precision, her tactical genius guiding the defense. As the tide of the battle turned against them, the Imperial commanders began to realize the gravity of their miscalculation. These humans were not the docile, technologically inferior species they had expected, but a formidable adversary, their resolve hardened by the threat of subjugation. Battered and outmatched, the Imperial fleet was forced to retreat, its damaged warships limping away from the solar system. Xyloth, his pride shattered, snarled a single order to his subordinates. Regroup and prepare for a full-scale assault. We will crush these humans, no matter the cost. Back on Earth, the news of the UAF's victory spread like wildfire, igniting a wave of jubilation and renewed determination among the people. Ivanov, her typically stoic demeanor softening, allowed herself a brief moment of triumph. We've won the first battle, but the war is far from over, she told General Voss, her voice tinged with both pride and apprehension. The Empire will return, and when they do, we must be ready. Voss nodded solemnly. We will be, Doctor. Thanks to your vision and the courage of our people, we've shown the Galactic Empire that humanity is not to be underestimated, and when they come back, we'll be waiting. As the celebrations continued, Ivanov's gaze turned to the stars, her thoughts consumed by the looming threat of the Empire's retribution. She knew that the true test of humanity's mettle was yet to come, and she was determined to ensure that they were prepared to face it, no matter the cost. The Imperial fleet, caught off guard by the human defenses, suffered heavy losses in the ensuing battle. Retreating to regroup, the Empire's leaders realized they had severely underestimated their newfound opponents. Determined to crush the humans once and for all, they mobilized their full might, drawing upon resources from across their vast domain, while Dr. Ivanov worked tirelessly to fortify Earth's defenses. Back on the Imperial capital of Xyloth, the defeated commander stood before the High Council, his head bowed in shame. The councilors, their faces etched with a mixture of anger and disbelief, condemned his failure in no uncertain terms. You dare return to us in defeat, Xyloth, bellowed the Grand Vizier, his voice booming through the cavernous chamber. These humans, primitives, have humiliated the might of the Galactic Empire. Explain yourself, or face the consequences. Xyloth swallowed hard, his nerves fraying under the weight of the councilor's withering gaze. Forgive me, esteemed members of the High Council. The humans were more formidable than we had anticipated. Their defensive network proved impenetrable, and we suffered grievous losses in the engagement. The Grand Vizier's lips curled in a disdainful sneer. Impenetrable, you say? Bah! The Galactic Empire has conquered countless civilizations, each one more advanced than these humans. We will not be denied our victory. He turned to the assembled military commanders, his eyes narrowing. Mobilize our full strength. I want every available warship and legion deployed to the human homeworld. This time, we will crush them without mercy." The commanders snapped to attention, barking orders to their subordinates as they hastened to carry out the Grand Vizier's directive. Xyloth watched the proceedings with a growing sense of unease, his doubts about the wisdom of this course of action weighing heavily on his mind. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Ivanov pored over the latest intelligence reports, her brow furrowed in concentration. The Imperial retreat had provided a brief respite, but she knew it would be short-lived. The Empire would return, and they would return with overwhelming force. "They're massing their entire fleet for a full-scale assault," she told General Voss, her voice grim. "We need to accelerate our preparations and reinforce our defenses. This next battle will be the decisive one." Voss nodded grimly. "I'll order the immediate deployment of our ground forces to strategic positions around the globe. We'll need every available resource to withstand the Empire's onslaught." Ivanov's fingers danced across the holographic displays, her mind racing as she formulated a plan. "And I'll oversee the final upgrades to the satellite network. We've got to make sure it's ready to meet the Empire's full might." The days that followed were a flurry of frantic activity, as the UHF mobilized its resources and personnel to fortify Earth's defenses. Civilians were drafted into support roles, factories worked around the clock, and the military deployed its most advanced weaponry and personnel to key strategic locations. Ivanov, her exhaustion evident, but her determination unbroken, directed the efforts with a relentless focus. She knew that the fate of humanity hung in the balance, and she was determined to do whatever it took to ensure their survival. As the Imperial fleet emerged from the void, its massive warships casting long shadows over the blue and green orb of Earth, Ivanov and Voss stood side by side, their gazes locked on the approaching enemy. "This is it, Doctor," Voss said, his voice tinged with a mixture of trepidation and resolve. "The fate of our species rests on this battle. Are you ready?" Ivanov's lips curled into a steely smile. "I've been ready since the day the Empire first set its sights on our planet. Let's show them the true power of the human spirit." With a nod, Voss turned to his subordinates, barking orders to prepare for the coming onslaught. Ivanov's gaze remained fixed on the horizon, her mind racing as she anticipated the Empire's next move. This was the moment they had been preparing for. The battle for Earth's very survival was about to begin. The UHF, outmatched and outgunned, knew they could not withstand the full force of the Galactic Empire. But they had a daring plan, conceived by Dr. Ivanov, a mission to infiltrate the heart of the Imperial capital and deliver an ultimatum of their own: withdraw from Earth or face total annihilation. The fate of humanity hung in the balance as the hand-picked strike team prepared for their perilous journey. As the Imperial fleet loomed ever closer, Ivanov and Voss convened a meeting with the UHF's top commanders and intelligence operatives. Tension hung thick in the air, punctuated only by the occasional crackle of the holographic displays. "We can't hold out against the full might of the Galactic Empire," Ivanov stated bluntly, her gaze sweeping across the assembled leaders. "Their fleet is too large, their weapons too powerful. If we try to defend Earth directly, we'll be crushed." Voss nodded gravely. "Then we must find another way to stop them." "Doctor, you said you had a plan." Ivanov took a deep breath, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. "Yes, General. We're going to strike at the heart of the Galactic Empire itself, their capital world of Xyloth." Gasps of disbelief rippled through the room, but Ivanov raised a hand to silence them. "I know it sounds impossible, but hear me out. We've been working in secret to develop the Prometheus, our first FTL-capable starship. With its advanced propulsion and stealth systems, it can slip past the Imperial defenses and deliver a team of our best operatives to the capital." Major Petrovna, Ivanov's second-in-command, stepped forward, her expression grim. "And what happens when they arrive on Xyloth? How do we expect a handful of soldiers to accomplish anything against the full might of the Empire?" Ivanov's lips curled into a determined smile. They won't be going there to fight. Their mission is to deliver an ultimatum to the Imperial High Council: withdraw from Earth or face total annihilation. The room erupted into a flurry of heated debate, with some commanders voicing their skepticism and others rallying behind Ivanov's audacious plan. As the discussion reached a fever pitch, Voss raised a hand, commanding the room's attention. Enough. Dr. Ivanov has presented us with our best, and perhaps only, chance of survival. We're all aware of the risks, but the fate of our species hangs in the balance. We must act, and we must act now. Turning to Ivanov, Voss nodded. Assemble your strike team. They have my full support. Ivanov's gaze shone with a mixture of relief and determination. Thank you, General. I promise you, we will not fail. In the days that followed, a select group of the UHF's most skilled operatives and soldiers were assembled, their training regimen grueling and intense. They knew the stakes were higher than they had ever faced, and failure was not an option. As the Prometheus prepared for launch, Ivanov stood beside the sleek, angular craft, her expression unreadable. General Voss approached her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You've done everything you can, Doctor. Now it's up to them. Ivanov nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. I know, but I can't shake the feeling that this is only the beginning. The Empire will not back down easily, and we may have to take even more drastic measures to ensure our survival. Voss's brow furrowed. What are you saying, Sasha? Ivanov's eyes narrowed. If the ultimatum fails, we may have to consider a preemptive strike against the Imperial capital itself. A strike that would send a message the Galactic Empire will never forget. Voss opened his mouth to respond, but the roar of the Prometheus engines cut him off. As the sleek craft rose into the sky, Ivanov and Voss watched in silent anticipation, their hearts heavy with the weight of the mission and the uncertain future that lay ahead. The human strike team, led by the legendary General Xander Voss, executed their plan flawlessly, breaching the Imperial Palace and delivering the UAF's ultimatum. Shaken by the audacity of the attack and the unwavering determination of their foes, the Imperial leadership was forced to confront a stark reality. The humans were a formidable adversary, not to be underestimated. As the Prometheus streaked through the void, its sleek, angular form slipping past the Imperial defensive perimeter, General Voss stood at the helm, his eyes narrowed with focus. Beside him, the elite squad of operatives made final preparations, their expressions grim but resolute. We're approaching the entry point, the pilot announced, her voice calm and steady. Get ready, team. Voss gave a curt nod, turning to address the strike force. Remember, our mission is not to engage the enemy, but to deliver a message. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and we'll make it out of this alive. The operatives acknowledged his orders with a chorus of affirmations, their weapons at the ready as the Prometheus descended towards the towering spires of the Imperial capital. Chaos erupted as the craft touched down in a secluded landing pad, the strike team spilling out into the bustling streets of Xylov. Blending seamlessly with the crowds, they made their way towards the imposing edifice of the Imperial Palace, their every step cloaked in shadow and secrecy. Breaching the palace's defenses was no easy feat, but the UF's operatives had been trained for this very moment. With precision and speed, they neutralized the guards, making their way deeper into the heart of the Imperial power structure. Finally, they stood before the grand double doors of the High Council chambers, their breaths held in anticipation. Voss raised a hand, signaling his team, and with a thunderous crash, the doors burst open, revealing the assembled counselors, their faces contorted with shock and outrage. Galactic Empire. Voss bellowed, his voice echoing through the cavernous hall. You have come to our world with the intent to conquer and enslave us. But we, the people of the United Human Federation, will not submit to your tyranny. The Grand Vizier, his eyes narrowed with fury, rose from his chair, his hand reaching for the ornate scepter that rested at his side. How dare you defile the sanctity of the Imperial Palace? You insignificant. Voss raised a hand, silencing the vizier with a steely glare. Hear me, leaders of the Galactic Empire. We have one demand. Withdraw your forces from Earth and cease your plans for conquest, or face total annihilation. The councilors erupted into a cacophony of protests and threats, but Voss remained unflinching, his gaze sweeping across the assembly. This is not a negotiation. You have 7 solar cycles to comply, or we will be forced to take drastic measures. The choice is yours. With a final nod, Voss and his team swiftly retreated, slipping back into the shadows and making their way to the Prometheus. As the craft lifted off, the sound of the councilors' outraged shouts faded into the distance. Back on the UHF command center, Ivanov and General Voss watched the live feed from the strike team's mission, their expressions a mix of relief and trepidation. They did it, Ivanov breathed, her fingers gripping the edge of the holographic display. Now we wait. Voss nodded, his brow furrowed. The Empire will not take this lightly. They'll be throwing everything they have at us. Ivanov's gaze hardened. Then we'll be ready. Our defenses are fortified, and the Prometheus is standing by. If the Empire refuses to back down, we'll have no choice but to take the fight to them. The days that followed were a tense and anxious waiting game, as the UHF leadership monitored the Imperial response. The skies above Earth remained eerily quiet, save for the occasional scout ship prodding the edges of the human defensive network. Then, just as the 7-day ultimatum was set to expire, the Imperial fleet emerged from the void, its massive warships casting long shadows over the blue and green orb of Earth. Ivanov and Voss exchanged a grim look, knowing that the final decisive battle was about to begin. "This is it, General," Ivanov said, her voice laced with steely determination. "The fate of our species rests on what happens next." Voss nodded, his hand tightening around the hilt of his sidearm. "Then let's make sure the Galactic Empire remembers the day they dared to face the might of humanity." Faced with the choice of continued conflict or withdrawal, the Galactic Empire reluctantly agreed to the UHF's demands. As their forces retreated from Earth, the humans celebrated their hard-won victory, knowing that their defiance had forever changed the balance of power in the galaxy. The Imperial fleet hung ominously in the sky, its massive warships bristling with weapons as the UHF's defensive network stood ready, poised to unleash its devastating firepower at the first sign of aggression. Ivanov and Voss watched the standoff intently, their expressions grave. "They've had their 7 days," Voss said, his voice tense. "If they don't back down now, we'll have no choice but to annihilate them." Ivanov's gaze remained fixed on the holographic display, her fingers flying across the controls. "The Prometheus is fueled and ready to launch, General. All teams are in position." The moments ticked by in agonizing silence, the air thick with the weight of impending conflict. Then, just as the tension reached a fever pitch, a single Imperial ship broke formation, its engines flaring to life. "They're withdrawing," one of the operators exclaimed, his voice tinged with disbelief. Voss and Ivanov watched in stunned silence as the Imperial fleet began a slow, orderly retreat, their massive warships turning and disappearing into the void. A cheer rose up from the command center, but Ivanov and Voss exchanged a wary glance. "It's not over," Ivanov murmured, her brow furrowed. "The Empire doesn't back down easily. They're surely planning something." Voss nodded, his expression grim. "Agreed. We need to maintain our vigilance and be prepared for whatever they have in store." As the Imperial forces withdrew from Earth's orbit, the people of the United Human Federation erupted into a frenzy of celebration, their long-held fears and anxieties finally giving way to a sense of triumph and relief. Parades and festivals broke out across the globe, with citizens waving flags and chanting the UHF's rallying cry, "We will not be conquered." Ivanov, however, remained steadfast in her concerns, her keen mind already anticipating the Empire's next move. Gathering her top commanders, She laid out her plan for the UAF's next steps. The Empire may have retreated for now, but we can't afford to let our guard down. We need to strengthen our defenses, expand our military capabilities, and prepare for the possibility of a counterattack. General Voss nodded in agreement. I've already begun deploying additional forces to key strategic locations around the planet, and the Prometheus is being outfitted with upgraded weapons and shielding systems. Ivanov's lips curled into a determined smile. Excellent. We'll also need to establish diplomatic ties with other civilizations in the galaxy to build a coalition against the Galactic Empire's tyranny. As the weeks turned to months, the UHF worked tirelessly to fortify its position, both militarily and diplomatically. Ivanov's tireless efforts paid off as the Prometheus and the defense satellite network were further upgraded, and the UHF began to forge alliances with other alien races who had suffered under the Empire's oppressive rule. Meanwhile, the Imperial leadership grappled with the humiliation of their defeat, their pride wounded by the stubborn resistance of the humans. The Grand Vizier, his face contorted with rage, convened a private meeting with the highest-ranking commanders. "This cannot stand," he bellowed, slamming his fist on the table. "The humans have made a mockery of the Galactic Empire. We must crush them, no matter the cost." The commanders exchanged uneasy glances, their doubts about the wisdom of such a course of action evident on their faces. Silov, the once disgraced commander, stepped forward, his voice hesitant. "Esteemed Grand Vizier, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The humans have proven themselves to be a formidable adversary, and further conflict may only lead to..." The Grand Vizier's eyes narrowed, and with a swift motion, he drew his sidearm, firing a single shot that struck Silov square in the chest. As the commander crumpled to the floor, the others looked on in stunned silence. "The time for discussion is over," the Vizier hissed, his gaze sweeping across the room. "Prepare the fleet. We will show these humans the true power of the Galactic Empire, no matter the cost." The commanders quickly dispersed, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and determination. They knew that the final, decisive battle was imminent, and that the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. In the aftermath, the United Human Federation emerged as a new interstellar power, respected and feared by the Galactic Empire and its allies. The victory had come at a great cost, but it had also forged an unbreakable bond among the people of Earth, who now looked to the stars with a renewed sense of purpose and a determination to shape their own destiny, guided by the vision and leadership of Dr. Sasha Ivanov. The Imperial fleet surged forward, its massive warships cutting through the void with a single-minded purpose: to crush the upstart humans once and for all. Aboard the Prometheus, Ivanov and Voss watched the enemy's approach with steely determination, their minds racing to anticipate the Empire's next move. "They're mustering everything they have," Voss murmured, his gaze fixed on the holographic display. "This will be the final, decisive battle." Ivanov nodded, her fingers flying across the controls. "Then we'd better be ready. Signal all defense teams to take their positions. I want the satellite network primed and ready to fire on my command." As the Imperial Armada drew closer, the UF's defensive network sprang to life, its powerful plasma cannons unleashing a devastating barrage that lanced out to meet the enemy. The battle raged on, with both sides pouring everything they had into the conflict, the very fabric of space shaking under the ferocity of the clash. Ivanov and Voss directed the defense with a combination of tactical brilliance and sheer determination, their every decision carefully calculated to maximize the impact of the UF's limited resources. But for every Imperial ship they managed to destroy, two more seemed to take its place, the Empire's relentless onslaught wearing down the human defenses. "We're losing ground, Sasha," Voss growled, his face etched with frustration. "If we don't do something soon, they'll break through our lines." Ivanov's brow furrowed as she considered her options, her mind racing. Suddenly, her expression hardened with resolve. "General, prepare the Prometheus for launch. It's time we took the fight to the Empire's doorstep." Voss's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed with understanding. You can't be serious. The risk is. I know the risks, Xander, Ivanov interrupted, her voice firm. But we have no choice. If we don't stop the Empire here, they'll never stop coming. This is our best, and perhaps only, chance to end this war once and for all. Voss opened his mouth to protest, but the determined gleam in Ivanov's eyes silenced him. With a resigned sigh, he turned to the Prometheus crew, barking orders for immediate launch. As the sleek craft streaked towards the heart of the Imperial fleet, Ivanov and Voss watched from the command center, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and hope. The Prometheus fought its way through the enemy ships, its advanced weaponry and cutting-edge shields, allowing it to carve a path towards the lead Imperial warship. Aboard the flagship, the Grand Vizier paced the bridge, his face twisted with fury. Blast that human vessel out of the sky. I want no survivors. But the Prometheus was too fast, too maneuverable for the lumbering Imperial ships to effectively target. Weaving through the barrage of plasma bolts and ion cannons, the craft finally reached its destination, locking its weapons onto the Vizier's command center. This is for the people of Earth, Ivanov whispered, her finger poised over the firing control. With a blinding flash of light, the Prometheus unleashed a devastating salvo of plasma torpedoes, the warheads streaking towards the Imperial flagship. Seconds later, the entire vessel erupted in a massive explosion, the shockwave rippling outwards and engulfing the surrounding ships. As the Imperial fleet reeled in disarray, the UF's defensive network redoubled its efforts, raining down plasma fire upon the disorganized enemy. Caught between the humans' relentless onslaught and the loss of their leadership, the Imperial forces began a disorderly retreat, their once mighty armada in tatters. On Earth, the people erupted into cheers and celebration, their voices echoing through the streets as the news of the UF's triumph spread like wildfire. Ivanov and Voss watched the scene unfold, their expressions sober but tinged with a sense of pride and relief. It's over, Ivanov murmured, her gaze fixed on the retreating Imperial ships. We've won. Voss placed a hand on her shoulder, his weathered features softening. No, Sasha. This is just the beginning. The Galactic Empire will not forget this defeat, and they will be back. But when they come, we'll be ready. Ivanov nodded, her eyes shining with a newfound determination. Yes, we will. And this time, we'll be the ones to take the fight to them. The age of human expansion has begun. As the people of Earth celebrated their hard-won victory, Ivanov and Voss turned their attention to the stars, their minds already racing with plans for the future, a future where humanity would take its rightful place among the great civilizations of the galaxy.